Have you ever walked into a room and immediately you felt your body change? Before anyone said anything, before anything happened, you could just feel it. Your stomach in knots, your shoulders begin to tense. You become more alert. You start paying attention to everyone's mood, trying to figure out whether this moment is a good moment, a not so good moment, or if it's safest to stay quiet. And for most of us, this isn't simply anxiety appearing out of nowhere. It's a skill that was learned long ago, a skill that likely helped you stay connected to important people in your life. And if you've spent years walking on eggshells around a parent, a partner, a family member, or some other important person in your life, the cost of carrying that skill into adulthood is often so much greater than we realize. And when people hear the phrase walking on eggshells, they often imagine somebody being careful not to upset somebody else. And while that's a piece of it, it runs so much deeper than that. It's the experience of sensing emotional danger before it fully arrives. It's becoming highly attuned to changes in mood, tone of voice, facial expressions, energy, behavior. It's connecting with patterns throughout time, learning to monitor the environment because something inside of you learned that staying connected depended on staying fully aware. And often this learning happened so early that there were never words for it, but feelings, sensations, patterns, experiences that taught your body what to expect. It isn't talked about enough how for some children, growing up in these difficult environments, they're really placed in an impossible situation. Every child needs to connect with their caregivers. They need belonging. They need to feel loved by the people responsible for raising them. At the same time, children also have an inner voice. They have an authentic core self. They have their own thoughts, feelings, preferences, and their own truth. In healthy environments, children learn that both the need to maintain connection to their caregiver and to honor their authentic truth can coexist. They can stay connected to the people they love and the people who keep them alive while still being themselves, expressing their authentic feelings, their authentic truth. But in other environments, that doesn't happen. Instead, the child begins receiving a different message, maybe directly, maybe indirectly. The message becomes, if you want connection, don't upset me. If you want connection, be seen, but not heard. If you want connection, don't disagree. If you want connection, don't have too many needs. Don't make things difficult. And because children are wired for connection to their caregiver, children will lose themselves to maintain that connection. They will frequently abandon parts of themselves for their own physical survival, and throughout the years, also for their own emotional survival. So these skills were developed under very understandable circumstances. Perhaps there was a parent whose moods were volatile. Maybe there was frequent criticism. Maybe conflict rarely, if ever, led to taking accountability and repairing things. Perhaps concerns were dismissed, minimized, or thrown back in your face. Maybe love and approval were inconsistent or conditional. So in these environments, paying close attention to other people is adaptive. It's survival. Of course, you learn to read the room. Of course, you learn to anticipate, to stay alert, to stay vigilant. However, these same skills that helped us to survive a difficult environment growing up don't often help us to feel safe later in life. And one of many reasons why this experience of walking on eggshells is so exhausting is that this is invisible work. People can recognize physical labor, but far fewer people recognize the labor involved in constantly scanning the emotional environment, taking the energetic temperature of the room, paying such close attention to facial expressions, subtle sighs, changes in tone, body language, trying to determine whether somebody is upset, trying to discern whether now is a safe time to bring something up, or if it's safer to swallow my needs. Assessing whether this time the conversation leans into curiosity or if it returns to blame shifting and defensiveness. It's a tremendous amount of effort on all parts of your being, mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, physically. So this early foundation of abandoning yourself in order to stay safe, you learned to notice everybody else's feelings before your own, everyone else's needs before your own, everybody else's reactions before your own. And after years of practicing this, you may come to a point in your life where you know exactly what everybody else wants, but have no idea what you want. You may sense what everyone else seems to be feeling, but really struggle to identify your own feelings. So you become a master at maintaining connection with others, but stuck in how to remain connected to yourself while upholding this connection with this important person in your life. And with so much attention directed outwards, there's so much less attention and energy available for what is happening inside. What am I feeling in this moment? What do I need? What am I noticing within me? What feels right to me? So over time, of course, you've become highly skilled at tuning into everyone else while simultaneously feeling extremely disconnected from yourself. Connection with self suffers. Authenticity suffers. So many adults discover that they automatically stifle their opinions, suppress their feelings, hiding disappointment, suppressing anger, minimizing hurt, over-explaining their needs, apologizing when they have nothing to apologize for, or saying yes when they really want to say no. And this is not a confidence issue. This is survival that is still running the show. This survival says protect the connection, even if it costs you yourself. Walking on eggshells, additionally, highlights this distance between two people because authentic relationships require honesty, require truth, require authenticity. And honesty becomes very difficult when you're constantly calculating how somebody else is going to respond. You probably stop bringing up your concerns. You stop asking for what you need. You stop sharing these parts of yourself. You no longer offer feedback. And not because those things don't matter, but because experience has taught you that expressing them often comes at a cost. The relationship may continue, but the connection is limited, less honest, less genuine, less reciprocal. And all this time, silencing your needs and being highly attuned to those of others. Of course, your nervous system is consistently scanning for problems. So it becomes really challenging to settle into those few moments that do feel nice, rather than feeling safe to fully immerse yourself in this present moment of peace, this present moment, perhaps of connection, of joy. Your attention still partly remains focused on when that's going to shift. There's this lingering feeling that happiness, safety, calm, peace seem just out of reach. Not because nothing good exists in their lives, but rather this vigilance is occupying so much space in all of their being. The mind remains focused on prevention rather than presence. Often the first step is recognizing the pattern, noticing how much energy is being spent monitoring somebody else's emotions, reactions, energy, their behavior. Noticing how often decisions are being shaped by fear of conflict, guilt, criticism, or disappointment. Noticing where self-expression has been shrinking over time. And while this awareness doesn't solve everything, it creates possibility. And possibility eventually leads into choice. And if it feels safe to do so, I invite you to reflect on your own experience of walking on eggshells. Is there a particular person that you consistently feel like you're walking on eggshells around? Is there more than one person in your life who you feel like you have to walk on eggshells around? Maybe it's an entire system. Perhaps you walk into work and immediately feel this energetic shift. Maybe you ask yourself, what would happen to shift out of this experience of walking on eggshells? How much of your energy is spent on navigating somebody else's reactions? What happens inside of you when you entertain the idea of being more honest or authentic? What happens in your body? Where in your life do you feel the most free to be yourself, your true, authentic self, where you feel safe? Walking on eggshells is so much more than most people realize. It's a pattern that shapes your self-trust, your relationships, your well-being, and the ability to fully participate in your own life. And while these patterns developed for very necessary reasons, they don't have to remain invisible. Beginning to notice how much energy has been spent carrying responsibilities that were never fully yours to carry is so powerful. As always, take good care of yourself. You're so worth it.